Hello, my name is Jonathan Cruz, and today I'm going to be covering some of the basics with InstrumentStudio. InstrumentStudio is companion software for NI's PXI platform and is a multi-instrument cockpit for your instrument needs on your PXI system. So when you open up InstrumentStudio for the first time, you're going to be presented with a couple of different options. So here we have the Auto Create layout, and Auto Create basically detects all of your instruments that are currently installed in your system and will give you a panel layout for each of those instruments that are detected. Now, the other option is manual layout, which lets you be a little bit more selective about which of your instruments are displayed in panels. Finally, there is debug, and what debug allows you to do is monitor your instruments that are currently running in another instance. Say, for example, a LabVIEW program that is using a waveform generator or an SMU that's installed in your system. This is intended for debugging purposes. So I'm going to start by doing an auto layout, and while that's loading, let me cover the hardware really quick. I have two oscilloscopes and two waveform generators that are in here, as well as an SMU, and I also want to note that the first oscilloscope and waveform generator are actually connected in a simple loopback, which I will refer to in a little bit. So now that this is loaded, let's take a look at what we have here on the screen. So to start with, we have our Project Explorer. And so the Project Explorer basically lists all of your current running instances within InstrumentStudio, and it also lists the files that are in the current directory. So say, for example, you might have some documentation relating to your DUT, or maybe some data logs, something along those lines. And then for the main course of your display, here on the right, we have our oscilloscope in our large panel, and we have the SMU power supply and waveform generator in the smaller panels. So we're able to control all our instruments from these panels. And something else I want to note here too is that I mentioned we have two scopes and two waveform generators. So if I scroll down here on our oscilloscope, we have the first one listed in slot 4, but also the other one that's in slot 6. It's the exact same thing with the waveform generator with the waveform generator in slot 3, and then scrolling down, we have the other one in slot 5. So InstrumentStudio conveniently combines all of our instruments of the same type into a single panel for us to be able to use. Okay, now let's say I wanted to create a manual layout instead. Well, what I can do, and thanks to InstrumentStudio being a project-based environment, is that I can go to File, go to New, and create a manual layout. So now in this menu, I'm able to configure exactly what shows up in what panels. So say, for example, my oscilloscope, I want to put that in my large panel because I want to be able to see that big display on it. And then for the waveform generator, I'm just going to put that in the small panel, and I'm going to consciously choose to omit the SMU power supply in this case. Okay, so now we have just the oscilloscope and just the waveform generator in our large and small panels. So this is really nice because now we can choose exactly what we want displayed, and we can be very efficient with our screen real estate here. Now, if I wanted to edit this layout in hindsight, I can go up here to the Edit Layout button, and this brings up that exact same menu and allows us to change it if we wanted. And another option here is that, say for my waveform generator, I can go and add or remove a device. Right now, it's only showing the first waveform generator in my first slot, so I can add or remove from here as well. I can add the second waveform generator to be displayed in that panel. The other thing I can do here in the settings is I can delete the panel altogether, say if I was done with it or no longer needed it. So you may have also noticed that this opened up a new tab here at the very top. And this is another really nice feature of InstrumentStudio. It really allows us to separate our layouts and our panels dependent on how we want to have it organized. So if I want to structure it so that all my panels are on one screen, I could do that. Or if I want to have my instruments in separate panels, I could. And another thing I can do here is I can actually rename this tab to say Test 1, and notice how it gets renamed here in the Project Explorer to help us keep track of things. If I wanted to create another panel, I can go here in the plus button next to the tab, and I can add a single panel. I could auto-create, I could do a manual layout, or let's say if I wanted to add a specific instrument, I could. So for example, the SMU power supply, I can do that. Another nice feature is that I can click and drag the tab. If I can grab it, there we go. And I can pull it out just like a Windows tab, or not a Windows, a web browser tab. So that gives us the ability to, say, pull this out and put it on another monitor if we wanted to take advantage of the multiple screens. So we really do have full control over how our instruments are displayed and how we have them laid out here in a convenient way. The other thing I want to note here with this panel in particular is that this created a large panel for the power supply, and it gives us the channel readback readings. Every single instrument has its own large panel version so that we can get a little bit more information from it. So for example, with a waveform generator, if I open that up in another tab, this gives us a preview of what the output of that waveform generator is. Okay, now going back to the other panel, if I go here and I want to start generating a signal, again, my waveform generator is connected in a simple loop back to my oscilloscope. All I have to do is enable the output and ensure that my instrument is running. And we now have a wave on our oscilloscope. Okay, so in summary, InstrumentStudio gives us an all-in-one environment to be able to control our instruments in a convenient project-based environment. It really allows us to control our instruments through the layouts, the panels, and the measurements. That'll about do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching.